Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's going on, everybody? Man, I'm glad that you guys are able to watch the video podcast this Sunday. I greatly appreciate that. But before we get started on the video, if you would, please, let's have a moment of silence for the addict who still suffers and those in the struggle. Please, if you would, a moment of silence. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, man. So how's it going, everybody? Man, today's Sunday. Today's great. It's sunny outside. The weather's great. So I figured, man, you know what? I'm going to come outside and do the video podcast outdoors. So that's what I'm doing. And I put location downtown San Antonio. It's at the San Antonio College campus downtown. And you see this cool little mural behind me, this space center thing that they got out here. So I figured this would be a good place for it. You know, since I was downtown already, I had went to my to the local church that I go to, which is City Tribe, and attended the services there. So after that, I figured, man, you know what a great place to do a meeting, and I'm going to choose downtown since it's a good day. So one of the things, the thing I wanted to talk to you about today, and it just, it just hit me, while I was sitting there at the service in church, and I figured, I was like, I think I'm going to talk about that today, and it's something that the pastor brought up, and it's a story of me being a Navy guy. He had the story of Admiral Jim Stockdale. And for those of you who don't know the story behind Jim Stockdale, Admiral Stockdale, he was the highest U.S. military ranking officer that was in a prisoner of war camp in the Hanoi Hilton prisoner of war camp in the era of the Vietnam War. And this gentleman went through a lot of struggles in that camp. He was tortured over 20 times, and he wound up he came out of it and wound up reunited with his family, and just this national hero guy, right? And but one of the parts in there of the story is a guy asked him who was the person in the camp that didn't make it. Like, what can you describe them? And what he said was, it was the optimist. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, the optimist. I mean, optimism is being hopeful that something is going to happen, right? So it kind of got me to thinking. I was like, well, it says, it was stated that they were in this stoically environment, within themselves. And for those of you who don't know what stoically is dealing with the reality of what's happening in the present. You know what I mean? So in other words, in layman's terms, it's like, the optimist there would say, okay, well, you know what? I'm optimistic that we're going to be getting out by this coming Christmas. They'll let us out. And Christmas came and went, and nothing happened. Then they were, oh, well, maybe by Easter we'll get out. And Easter come and went, and they didn't get out. And they were like, well, maybe by this coming, Thanksgiving, all this time's collapsing, so maybe this time they'll let us out. And they kept getting their heart broken, in a sense. So they kept dying every little bit, And in being in a mental state of being stoically, mentally preparing yourself for being in that, in the here and now, in that context, I was thinking, when I look at that and bring that into my life as far as recovery and spirituality goes, I was thinking, man, you know what? How many times was I optimistic in my last relapse. You know, my last relapse was 5 years, man. I had 5 years of relapse, and I can remember, you know, there would be days, sometimes it would be monthly or weekly or, you know, or daily, right, of things that I would mentally say to myself. I was like, okay, well, I know that I'm going to do this now, and hopefully by this time of the year, I've already gotten this far out of the addiction or out of being homeless, or, you know, I kept being optimistic and hopeful that something was going to come up better. And I could remember doing that the first year that I was out in the streets, and then fast forwarding it 5 years later, and I'm still doing that. And it wasn't until one day that I had to really stoically, mentally think about what was happening and deal with the here and now. It's like, dude, nothing's getting better for you so long you keep putting these drugs into your body. Nothing's getting better so long you stay in this, you know, community that you're involved in. You know, if you're staying here and your elements and your environment is only negative and in this little bowl of just despair, in a sense, then how do you expect to be optimistic that something's going to happen? You know what I mean? So, you know, in a spiritual sense, I could remember being stuck in a park, you know, and just having this big knockdown, drag-out argument with my girlfriend at the time, and then wound up at the park afterwards, and I'm standing there being a lookout so that she can, you know, shoot up her drugs, and I'm sitting there looking that nobody comes by, or there's no, you know, bike police coming or anything. I gotta give her the heads up or whatever, and waiting my turn to, you know, to smoke my stuff, and just being angry, and I can just remember standing there, and this is early in the morning, like at 10:30 a.m. or between, you know, sometime like that in the morning, and I'm just thinking, I was like, what the heck are you doing here? And I kept thinking to myself, is this where my life ends up? Is this it right here? I was like, what am I even doing here? I couldn't, in my wildest dreams, wouldn't have ever thought that I would be in a situation like that. And until, like, Mr. Stockdale, in his journey, when he was in that midst of just this whole turmoil situation, he had to mentally prepare himself and figure, okay, well, he said that he mentally thought and had these visions and things that he was already out of the misery. He knew that I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be doing that, and I'm not going to even be here. You know, whether it's a year from now, 10 years from now, I already see myself somewhere else. And I had to do that. You know what I mean? I had to literally quit just micromanaging these thoughts of, okay, well, if I could just get till next week, and if I can just get to that program over by the Salvation Army, or if I can just, you know, do, you know, there was always some excuse that I had that I was, as long as I had that excuse, I was allowing myself to stay in the despair. I was allowing myself to stay in that addiction, because I was like giving myself a pat on the back, in a sense, saying like, oh, well, you're doing something about it. You know what I mean? So it's okay if you're still here using, because you at least got this little bit of a plan going. And it really wasn't a plan. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything. It was just a cycle of me getting deeper and deeper into that hole of despair, and until I decided that I have to really do something, and I started envisioning myself out of there and talking to my spiritual higher power and saying, you know what, I need help. I can't do this on my own, because I've been doing it on my own for 5 years and I'm still here. And I know I need the help. And when I asked, I didn't know that I was provisioning things. And in a biblical text, provision it's stated that provision is, God says that if you ask, He will help all of His people, all of His kids, all of His children. And I'm like, man, I'm part of that. You know what I mean? How come I couldn't have thought about this a long time ago? You know what I mean? Why is it that it came to me 5 years of despair, of just darkness, of just being in this whole world of drugs and in the streets and doing illegal crap, and, you know, selling drugs to get drugs and stealing and doing stupid crap that I was doing. And I'm just grateful by the grace of God that I was able to finally see the picture and start doing something, mentally preparing myself and mentally saying, okay, dude, this is what you got to do. I was already picturing myself out of it. And lo and behold, man, the next day, after I sat there and cried out in that park, I get pulled over the next morning, the very next morning, and I got thrown in jail. And I've been sober ever since that day. And I'm grateful for that, you know what I mean? Because I'm grateful. Sometimes, you know, everybody's rock bottom is different, you know what I mean? And I'm just grateful that mine was at that park, because I could have, my rock bottom could have easily well been, you know, the judge giving me 2 years in prison like I thought I was going to get. Or, you know, either something happening to me on the streets, maybe dying over some drugs or over a deal or over an overdose or something like that, you know what I mean? So it could have been a whole lot worse, and I understand that. And I'm just grateful by the grace of God that I was able to really channel my thought process into a different way and read between the lines, in a sense, and let the smoke clear, if you will, and being able to go a different road, you know what I mean? And just like the you know, the big book, you know, in the NA book, it tells you that you know, you got to be hopeful, open-minded, and willing to the change. And man, did I ever have to do that, because I was at first, I wasn't hopeful that something was going to happen, because I thought I was going to go to prison. And then I, you know, had to really be open-minded and willing to change, because I was like, okay, well, since I'm not going to prison now, I'm going to be let out of jail. Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to the environment where I was at? Or what's my next move here? Because, you know, it was kind of a hard move, because, you know, I had a girlfriend, obviously, at that time, who I had been with almost 4 or 5 years or so. So it's you know, to just leave somebody in a drop of a hat. And, you know, I gave him the option, you know, ultimatum or whatever. Look, if we're gonna continue to be together, we gotta go on this journey with me. And if you don't want to change, I mean, I can't help you change. You know, that's got to be you. You know, all I know is that I know where I gotta go, and I know what I gotta do to help me right now in this point in my life. So, you know, it was a tough decision, but I had to do it. And you know, along with all of that, like Jim Stockdale's story, you know, along with him thinking that way and putting his mindset in a certain way, but knowing that in the end that he was going to be in a different place, a better place, that's the things that he had to do. And so I put that in context of my life, that, man, that's something that I have to do, because had I left any crutch, any window of opportunity open to go back to the addiction, there's no way I would be sitting here talking to you sober today, or even doing this podcast. So I'm grateful that I was able to do that, and to have that mindset change, because a lot of people don't think that you can change. You know what I mean? It's hard when because you want to stay in that comfort zone. But I'm here as living proof that you can change, and you know, those hardships and those days of darkness and depression and anger and all of those types of things are only a season. You know what I mean? It's only a season, and we that's who we are as humans. You know, we go through seasons every single day, and every single day is part of a season. And you know, at different seasons, you know, you harvest and you get yourself together and you clean yourself up, and then in another season it's going to be fruitful, where you're just giving away what has helped you along the way to get into recovery and to live a life of sobriety and positivity, spirituality, and for you to give that away. And for me, doing this podcast is part of that. You know what I mean? So it's great to be doing stuff like that. It not only helps me, you know, therapeutically helps me and mentally, and gives me that, you know, that drive to keep moving forward and doing positive things to help somebody else. You know what I mean? Because I've been there, done that. You know what I mean? I've been in the streets. I've been addicted to drugs. I've been depressed. I've been in that place where you just don't want to live no more. I've dealt with childhood traumatic experiences. I've dealt with PTSDs, and you know, I've dealt with a lot of things in my lifetime. And you know, by giving away the stories of and sharing what has helped me to get to where I'm at today is just an awesome blessing. You know what I mean? And you know, just to give you an example, you know, I'm starting a new venture in my life where I'm starting this new IT career, and my school starts on the 27th of March, and I personally use public transportation to get around. So I was telling my daughter, I was like, well, okay, I know I can do this because I've got a couple of degrees already, so I know that the school I can do. But I was like, man, how am I going to get to school? You know, I got to go to school at night. It's going to be 4 hours every, you know, 2, 3, or 4 days out of the week. And, you know, the bus, I can get there on the bus, but how am I going to get back? And lo and behold, man, God, it works in beautiful ways, because a friend of mine called me today and asked me, you know, if we wanted to go to church. He wanted to go to church. I said, yeah, man, come on. He goes, I just got this car. I'll pick you up. I just got a brand new car. I was like, okay, cool. So he picked me up. We went to breakfast and, you know, went to church, and then he lays it on me and said, look, man, he goes, I got this scooter. I want you to hold on for me, and I want you to use it. If you I know that you don't got a car, and if you can use it, you know, I'll let you take it. And I just kind of threw me off, and I was like, oh man, what the heck? This is a blessing, because I was just telling my daughter I didn't know how I was going to be getting to school and back. And you know, now I got this scooter that he put in my path, and man, that was just beautiful to me, man. And you know, thank you, Joel. His name is Joel, just like mine. So thank you, my brother, for that, man. I am truly grateful for that, brother. And but yeah, see, so that's what I'm talking about. It's one of the examples that when you lean on your higher power, on your spirituality, on the programs, and your community, and just know that things do get better, and people do recover. You know what I mean? Because I'm living proof of that. And I'm just grateful. But I just wanted to share that story with you guys, my journey at the church today, and what I picked up there, and a little bit of what I wanted to share with you guys. So I hope that the Admiral Jim Stockdales story resonates with somebody, and my stories, hopefully they resonate with you, and gives you that first nudge to, you know, come to this side of recovery, positivity, and spirituality, and or even give you that nudge to do service work. You know, if you're already in recovery and you just kind of stagnate in your recovery, just, you know, you're looking for something to up your game, in a sense, and what I like to call is just loading up my recovery arsenal, because when I have a lot of out things that I can do in my recovery journey. Those are, you know, things that are in my recovery arsenal that I can pull out at any time and share them with you guys, the audience, and put them back into my life, into practice, because I know that they work. And again, I really appreciate you guys listening to my video podcast this Sunday. Also, if you would please at this time, give me the thumbs up, hit that bell, hit that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. Just know that when you do hit that subscribe button, you'll be helping out another veteran like myself, another person dealing with homelessness, PTSD, childhood traumatic experiences, drug addiction, anger, depression, suicidal thoughts, all of those types of things, because I've dealt with all of those things. And I just would, you know, greatly appreciate that if you guys share my channel and subscribe to my channel, because it's just another way that we can help and spread the message to the addict who still suffers, and for those people who are still in the struggle, my brothers and sisters. So thank you for listening again. So happy Sunday to everybody. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. So I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.